everything that I own is some of it is in Bombay
Some
and
other
some of it is
continent?
Paris. Yeah, and I don't have access to it.
No problem. No problem. Say.
A bit of a yeah. Also, what's happened is, and especially now that I started shooting everything on film and getting things processed, scanned, the labs are shut. A lot of we shot something recently for an American magazine. I couldn't deliver it, which is not going to happen. Never happened, but I mean they understand, of course. But what's happened is, and especially now that I started.
Acha, just so in terms of flow, Vinay will introduce the talk. Vinay or Devang, one of them will introduce the talk. They'll move it to me. I'm going to give a quick 2-minute introduction to you. After that, I leave it open to you. We have your presentations. I know the flow that you want to do and all. I mean, that's completely up to you as to how you want to take that. And I will come in once your last presentation ends.
Okay, great.
I'll come in with questions once your last presentation ends. So we'll first begin with my question, and then we'll move to the panelists, the audience, everyone. That I'll keep monitoring which are the interesting questions.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Okay, guys, we are live on YouTube. I've shared the link on WhatsApp.
Ray, do you want to just wipe your camera a little? It's flaring too much. Maybe you're a bit like, yeah, just with a tissue or something.
Okay, I am. Oops, sorry. Hold on a second. I gotta
That's the
find
first sight that the people on YouTube are gonna get.
No.
Maybe because I'm probably against light. That's probably what it is.
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah. Better?
Better.
Much better for you.
It's probably a tweak it a little. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, it's interesting. It's quite.
Unless that was deliberate. I mean, I'm sorry.
my wife's streaming it in the bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah. No, and the teasing part is, we can't go outside, and the weather in Paris is absolutely gorgeous, and it's not been like this for a while. And after the winter, when you see sunlight, for 3 months you don't have it, and then when you have it, you just go crazy.
Yeah.
So difficult for all of us to stay indoors in this.
True.
And the government is a bit scared. All of Paris, and everybody wants to go out. Everybody wants to do barbecue and this and that. And bar. It gets into regardless. Vinay, is Vinay with us?
Yeah.
Vinay, did you share the thing with me on YouTube? There. Okay. He's got the YouTube.
So we're live on YouTube now?
Yeah, we are.
All right. So on Instagram. I'm really bad at all this.
Devang, can you also send Red the image, the speaker image, so that he can just share it on his Insta story with a swipe up link or something? That will be the easiest.
I just did it on my story. I mean, basically just take a small picture and just put the link up on the story so people can go on it.
Okay, Devang, I think we should let all people in. Yeah.
Oh, Red, you can do a swipe. Okay. Devang, can you send an image here? The speaker image if possible.
Yeah.
I'll just share it on mine. Well, actually, I think Raj has it.
The ability to put a link? No, I don't have it either.
No, Baba, no. Yeah, no. Red has it. No, you have posted the story with Red's poster.
That's on the F.Stop photo Instagram. I shared that.
So that I'll just use.
Yeah.
I've just shared one on the group as well.
Baba, vertical Baba.
Okay, guys, I'm opening up the room. Cool. Here's the vertical one.
Got
Joseph,
it. I
for
got it.
you.
I got it.
Yeah.
I got it.
And we are going to be playing 2 videos today, Vinay. Let's see the starting. Sorry, at the starting, yes. Okay.
Ashit Devang, any questions on YouTube? You're going to be WhatsApping me, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Devang, we also have Nitin in the room. If you can even just. I think everybody has come in now. Still showing me waiting. Can you just check if Nitin is there? Yeah, Nitin is there in the room. He's there in the room. Yeah, we'll have to get him up on the panel. Hey, Nitin. Hi.
Hey. Hi, Swapan. How are you doing?
Hey, hi. Are Nitin bhai?
Yeah.
How are you?
Good, man. How are you?
Good, man. How are you doing? Your bandana is still there, huh?
Absolutely.
Oh my God. Hi.
Hi.
That's a pleasure.
Pleasure meeting you. And looking forward to chatting with you.
भैया बातें तो अच्छी कर लेते हो
क्या कर लेते हैं क्या सफर
बातें तो अच्छी कर लेते हो हमेशा as usual you're such a sweetheart यार ऐसा है बड़े दिन हो गए so we should after this catch up.
Nice.
I think we are live. We are live.
Long time. Yeah. All well. You tell me.
But I think we are live just
so
now.
This
so
is
we
technology
just...
is like.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this is new to me.
We just start this meeting right here.
Sound.
Yeah. Sound is a bit here and there.
All right. So Vinay. I'm just going to start off the meeting by playing a brief video. Okay, so welcome everyone.
That was really nice.
To yet another session of F.Stop. And we are happy to today host none other than Rid Burman. Rid, hi from everybody here. So Rid joins us from Paris today, and welcome once again to all our panelists as well. And to all the participants, just a few house rules. Please do not unmute your mics unless you're asked to. Please do not start your videos. We need to conserve the bandwidth. And just to give you a brief introduction of F.Stop, I'm just going to play one more video, and then we'll hand it over to Raj to take it over from there. So that's the video of F.Stop. F.Stop was founded in 2008 by Vinay. Vinay, if you could just say hello to everyone.
Hi.
And Ashit.
Hi everyone.
Yeah, so that's Vinay, Ashit, and me who started F.Stop in 2008. We would also like to welcome all the panelists once again. So we have Mr. Amit Asher, Mr. Prashant Kodbole, Mr. Amit Mehra, Mr. Swapan Parekh, Mr. Tarun Kiwal, Mr. Dinesh Khanna, Mr. Joseph Radhik, and Mr. Nitin Rai. Thank you for joining us today. And the only person who has got a continuous wind effect on his hair, Mr. Fauzan Hussain. Raj, over to you to take it over.
Thank you, Devang. And welcome to everyone for this, what seems to be right now the final session of the lockdown series of that F.Stop guys are organizing. I use the word seems to be because hint, Devang, Vinay, I think you should organize a lot more because all indications are that the lockdown is being extended. But on to today's session. Red Burman. I first spoke to Red Burman over 8 years ago. I had a very brief telephonic conversation with him, which I remember was extremely interesting about where he was in photography at that point of time. But as life often tends to be, I lost touch both with him and his photography. It was only a couple of years ago when a friend of mine started working with him did I rediscover his work. And my first response was, who is this person? I I wouldn't be exaggerating if I would say that the Burman I saw a couple of years ago was someone that I simply could not recognize from the memory of the Burman I had from circa 2012 or 13 or whenever it was that I had, last spoken to him. Over the last couple of months, I've had the fortune of knowing him on a far more personal level, and the one memory that I can have is that this fellow who juggles fashion, commercial, editorial work of a lot of different kinds while walking to his wedding mandap, which I had the fortune to photograph, was extremely excited showing me a photograph from I think it was backstage for Ralph and Russo, which I mean, this
Yeah.
guy's about to get married. He's walking to his mandap, but he's really debating the various aspects of that photograph with me, and that's someone who he is, completely obsessive, and that's why I'd rather leave the floor right now to Burman.
It's too sweet, Raja. It's too sweet. Yeah, Ralph and Russo was interesting. I mean, I I shot a couple of backstage things, but not so much. And that was, I don't know whether the thing is I don't have access to it, or maybe I do. Maybe I have to look into my PDFs somewhere else, and maybe I'll be able to find it and share screen with everybody. But it was commissioned by Vogue Arabia because the editor knew somebody, and they said, and I know Tamara Ruff, the person who owns Ruff, and it was a kind of a big show. And it was funny to sort of go there and shoot in Couture Week, but interesting because again, I approached it like I was like I didn't really care. It was just clothes, good faces, but it had to be about compositions. It had to be about small elements in the show. Even a small steam iron that looked really interesting and beautiful was probably a great picture than having to show couture overall. Interesting approach to it because I think you approach it from a much more sort of a, I don't know how to describe it exactly, but you approach it from a much more ground level, you have to approach it with a lot of innocence rather than seeing these as like I guess I don't know, to strip off the layers of, oh, this is this big show with this one and that one, and one garment you touch it, it's probably going to cost you a kidney or something like that. So Raj, you want to start after? I'm very bad at talking. I'm not really a big conversationalist.
Do you want to show your work first? Do you want to show the PDFs that you shared with me, and then we could get into like questions and answers?
I can. I mean, maybe I'll start by saying that in the beginning it was interesting. My journey began. I mean, both my parents are artists. They're painters, and I kind of grew up with a very very fine art upbringing with books by Raghurai Saab, by Dinesh Khanna Saab, by a lot of people who are panelists here today. I'm very grateful. I've grown up looking at their books. Tarun's work I've seen in magazines when I was quite young, and sort of debating whether photography was a huge aspect of mine. I really loved exploring it, but it was never. I originally wanted to be a sculptor, but and my parents knew many photographers who were at that time working and quite established, and I think they all told me to go to Brooks to give it a shot. So I went and I got through the school. At that time, it was all film driven. Digital was not around, and everything was manual printing, black and white. So it was very beautiful. I fell in love with the process, and photography became what I wanted to do. And I wanted to. I mean, I live for it. I probably die for it. It's everything. But it sort of and then you sort of get carried away. You want to follow a wave where I think while our generation, I would say, is kind of like the guinea pig generation, right? When it all started, it was all very like serious, and it was almost a very serious format of art. But I saw Sopan's work when he was shooting. I remember the ICICI campaign with I think was it the two people under a tarpaulin or something like that. I remember that. That was outstanding. And so when you look at that work and I said, man, this is amazing, because this is a zone that I want to follow, because there's so much art in this, so much seriousness in this. I'll come to that later. So you start following that way, thinking that you're going to do that kind of work, and you start flowing, and you've got blinders on, and you're just following a path. And nobody's going to teach that. I think you just have to learn that. And that's experience and time. And as you grow older, these are little wisdoms that you just kind of pick up on the way. And to start that, I started shooting for magazines. I started exploring, and I guess I was looking more at the destination than the journey. So you start like, okay, I want to shoot for this guy, I want to shoot for that, I want to shoot this campaign, but what about journey to that campaign? So while you're going to that journey to that campaign, I never really explored that. And so I developed this body of work, which was interesting, a lot of commercial things that we did. And I guess India, it's an interesting market. It's a great market, but also it's a market which is changing, I think, along with the rest of the globe. It's just there's such a huge topsy-turvy with everything. So much bombardment of information today. And I built up this body of work, which is this commercial work, which is what I will show now, which Raj, will you show it on my behalf, or?
Sure. Vinay, do you have all the PDFs? Can you, because Vinay, I think will operate the screen.
Read, you don't have them? You said you're going to show
I have them. I can show them.
Because you didn't send me all of them. Yeah, you didn't send me all of them.
Yeah, I didn't send you all of them, but I'll show this one. This is a commercial book, which is still, well, the new updated one is in my studio in Bombay. I don't have it. Nobody can send it to me. So this is something that we still send out a little bit to a lot of clients, mostly India. We don't really share it overseas so much. And it's a couple of campaigns, and how sort of it's stuff that we sell out to pay bills and things like that. And it's a small PDF that we sometimes, a lot of clients say, okay, what has he done like that or like this or like that? You have some client that you've been working with for a while, and then marketing head changes, somebody else comes back and says, can I see his work? So something that we send out. But this is a Burman that has died in 2015, about 5-6 years ago. So this is not the work where I would like to be, but you sometimes to pay bills, to pay rent, got a family, you've got to just put it together and do it. I'm just going to
try sharing it. I have it ready. Just hold on.
Okay, great. If Vinay can go for it.
Yeah.
All right, Raj, you can start. I mean, I'll talk a little bit maybe in the middle once in a while about the pictures. I don't want to be romanticizing them or anything else.
And then I'll come in after that,
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, I like work. I don't shoot too much celebrities, but only the ones who I think I can relate to in a way that we can have a dialogue. So him I've known for a while, and I think he's kind of a performer in his own way. So it's interesting to work with him. And one of the first few sort of, when we had the global heads of Adidas come in and work with us, and there's an echo, by the way. Sorry.
Guys, can you mute everyone apart from Burman, ideally? Mute everyone apart from Burman and me, and we'll unmute whoever is talking after the pictures are shown, because right now there's a lot of echo.
I think it's
Raju.
YouTube video.
Is it all right now? I mean, I can't hear the echo. That's fine. Okay, regardless. So basically, with him, we had the global heads of Adidas come in, and they had a certain mandate. Of course, I would have probably, if it was left up to me, I would have shot it differently. But there's a mandate, and it needs to be shown a certain way. So it needed to be shot a certain way. There was a certain layout and all of that. Everybody knows how to approach a commercial job, be it working within a framework. Of course, what you bring in within that framework is a different story, because that's when you're trying to bring in your language, your experience, your eye to the photo. But obviously, it has to be because the brand has a character, the story to tell, blah blah blah, all that. Anyway, he's always nice to work with, so I like working with him. You can go to the next one. Yeah, this is all stuff which doesn't. I mean, we don't really work with so much anymore. Again, a friend, and I guess it works because, if I tell her, listen, I'm not gonna lie to you like this, so it's different. It's a beauty story in New York campaign we shot for a brand like that. You can keep rolling, Raj. Yeah, this is actually a nice one. You can stay there for a bit. This is Vondat was a brand from LA. Although even today, for instance, if I'm approached to shoot a typical fashion campaign, I would probably work with a zone like this. Of course, I would love to make it more natural in a way, but I guess all over the world, this is a new case. You have some guy coming in and saying, okay, I want to see the clothes. Okay. We could have probably made it much more interesting, but within that little zone, you do what you do. Keep rolling. We keep going to the next one. Yeah. Interesting, again, gem fields, playing jewelry, and because when I was approaching this, it was a long time ago. We just go back to the gem fields one. The previous one again, Vinay. If you go back to the previous, yeah, this one. So basically, when we were shooting this, and this is so long ago, you can make out, because Chitrangiza was famous, I don't know, 6 years ago, I think. And the creative director, even he's changed the way he works, by the way. His name is Jonathan Liu, an English guy. And he completely shoots very differently. We just had a chat a couple of days ago. And I was approaching it like a proper jewelry campaign, where, okay, we'll show everything, we'll do it like this, we'll light the thing and this and that. And he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, really? I can actually break away from all of this? He said, yeah. So then something came out of it. But again, I think given up to me now, I would probably not shoot it like this. But regardless, this is stuff that paid the bills, clothes. A lot of people probably still will not shoot like this, and they want it to be still more literal, at least in certain markets, Paris as well. And this is still not a conservative jewelry campaign. Conservative according to me, but I guess pushing the bar is very, very difficult when it comes to typical commercial. So we can keep rolling.
Yeah, just.
Go to the next one. Yeah. Well, Alia she was younger, and it was easier to work with her. She didn't have that much to say, I guess. So you could shoot her, Still very. I mean, I don't even shoot for these magazines anymore, anyway, because they become too commercial. This is interesting. This is stuff that I kind of started. I was just breaking my style of work that you saw in like Bazaar or whatever. So this is just me transitioning into a Burman that I would like to be. I'm still not sure where I am in terms of. I think we're always evolving as artists. You arrive at a certain style, but then you're like, okay, what else? You're always experimenting. And I think the moment we think that, okay, this is it, I love this style, I think you stop growing. So you have to sort of keep creating and keep breaking it, keep revisiting. So I was just transitioning into something that I am probably now in terms of the way I see things or shoot things. And these are small little installations that I was creating while I was shooting. So again, because I wanted to be a sculptor, I think a lot of that started coming out in me. We can keep rolling if you want. Interesting. Cotton World at that time was, I think they still do a bit of work, maybe. We can go back to Cotton World. Yeah, it was a brand that used to have, I guess they wanted to show clothes, but in the midst of that, whatever we could do in terms of interesting, whatever. But again, and I remember this important thing when I was shooting with Prashant actually a long time ago. It was about how important casting is, right? So we had to go fight to get the right kind of faces. You can't really zoom in. I mean, this girl, one of the girls here has become a huge face in the moment. Anyway, regardless, it was, I guess, this was many moons ago. I think this was somewhere around 2014, if I was not mistaken. And I guess for 6 years ago, it wasn't that bad a campaign. Again, I would probably look at it differently now, but 6 years ago for me, it did tickle a few notes. Keep moving. Geez, yeah. They love putting this in the commercial PDF. Yeah.
Next.
Yeah. This is interesting. It's French Vanity Fair, which was interesting exploration. Lamel has been a very interesting client for me over the years. And Lakshmi is incredible to photograph. She's evergreen, always. I mean, the amount of energy that she brings in front of your camera is the reason why she's Lakshmi. It's one of my favorite girls to photograph all the time. Can we stop here for a minute? So there's a little bit of history to this. So Amrapali at that time was launching in Harrods, I think, in the UK, and they got 2 creative directors from Harrods to come down and shoot with me in this one. And I've only shot with them twice, and then after that we've not worked because, and this is again I think 2015 where so I was trying to approach them saying how we can do this differently. Of course we had to get it. So we wanted to get in a stylist who had to be from a very different perspective. I couldn't get them a stylist who's going to see Indian jewelry like Indian jewelry. So we got somebody from London. I approached it with just a very simple camera flash. Casting was from London. So we had to be an Indian girl, which is from a modeling agency called Tess, which is a good one. So we tried to do whatever we could within our boundary. Of course, there was jewelry has to be seen, blah, blah, blah. All those limitations were there. But in that zone, again, given the Burman now, I'll show a PDF, which is so different from all of this, which is the commercial zone that I want to be in now. And I think that's, as Raj had pointed out, this is a Burman that died many moons ago. But regardless, we can keep rolling.
Winner next.
Yeah, it takes about 7 seconds to reach you.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. This is another Amrapali. This is the second leg of the same campaign, I think. So long ago. No, we can keep rolling. This is, playing with, you try and do the best that you can within that framework, right? Interesting. Is anybody familiar with Norman Parkinson's work? Norman Parkinson is a very old, we can go back to that one. I'll talk about the one on the left, this guy, the one of a pulled out shot of the girl sitting on the bench with the, Norman Parkinson is a very old English photographer who's photographed Gayatri Devi many times. He's photographed a lot. He's brought in like international models and shot in Jaipur and stuff like that back in the day, back in the 50s, 40s, and beautiful work. So a lot of the inspiration was from that. So if anybody can research Norman Parkinson, beautiful work. Okay, you can keep rolling. Yeah, this is Vogue India. We're shooting in London a while back, and I still consider this very commercial. I mean, it's the Elle, Vogue, Bazaar, and all these other guys. Vogue, I guess, Elle is now giving me a lot of liberty to work the way I want to work, which is amazing. But a lot of these magazines are still, at the end of the day, very commercial magazines. And, there was a time where they would push the boundaries, but I think even now, with print getting hit so hard, they have to kind of follow a very, very normal regime, I suppose. So I mean, now for me now, what will really turn me on is to shoot for a lot more fine art based magazines. So I started working with a lot more fine art based. I don't have that PDF shared with Vinay, but I'll pull up something that I just did for a French magazine called Apart, which is it's a fashion fine art blend of a magazine, which is quite interesting. And then we shot something with Refinery 29, which I don't have the main images, so it may be difficult to show, but regardless. Okay, we can keep moving. Bhumika has a huge face. The girl on the left has become very famous, and the guy on the right is another. Zaidi. The one on the left is funny because we shot this in New York and it got syndicated to 26 L editions all over the world, which is quite interesting for us. Yeah. And Chimamanda is a very famous Nigerian author on the right. The girl on the right, and a couple of British Vogue bought a bunch of images from us. It was interesting to work with these kind of celebrities because they have a lot of character. So there's a lot to give back. You learn a lot from them. You can keep moving.
Winner next.
This stuff, it was playing around. It's a mix of editorial commercial. Kind of, again, the Burman that was transitioning, I think. The one on the right with the sculpture holding a jacket was Levi. This is the Maharaja of Jaipur, which was fun with Pacho on film. This was interesting because I could shoot on film, and it was the creative director was from New York. Guy called he was working with Ralph Lauren, and then he moved. And it's about a bit of classic style and this and that, and fun to play because and the best thing about shooting on film is nobody gets to see what you're doing, so nobody questions you. It's you, end of the day, in a way. And what you do with I mean, the clothes are great. We did just shoot, play with props, shot what we shot. I had to keep a certain layout in mind again, and it worked out. It worked out for them. I had the client reach out to me yesterday. He's in Spain, and so these guys are it's a Roman company, Cipanelli, and they're based out of between Paris and Madrid. And apparently one suit is, I don't know how expensive it is. You could probably buy a car. Regardless, it was good to work with Pacho. I've known him since he was a kid. So it's fun to shoot him. Very basic, simple compositions, keeping it easy. Karan with GQ, I guess. Him again is fun to shoot, always. And film. So he was one of the first celebrities I started working with on film where he didn't get to see anything. And he never questioned me. Never. He said, okay, you do what you want. I said, you look good, don't worry, we're gonna just make it work. It was fun. And I gave them the cover that I wanted to go. And nice. Those times I think are kind of getting harder and harder by the day. But all right. Interesting to see my own celebrity work, which I and I shoot these guys so differently now. But regardless, you can keep moving stuff around. And, yeah, he's fun too. He's a very nice gentleman. This is actually there in my current portfolio as well, which is something we sent out. This is shot in New York for the client, for Italia, the client. I'll come to this later. We can talk later. Interesting. It was Leo Burnett, Italy, because they're based out of. Again, you have to shoot within the frameworks of what they give you. Very strict layouts and stuff. You think that the brand cooler the brand, the more liberty you'll have. It's never like that. Really hard. $500. And you can, yeah, it was fun. Saks was a good assignment, and now they're broke. They don't have any money. It's a jewelry campaign for them, and interesting way, because I was experimenting with a very different light. We just kind of playing with these weird colors and stuff. It's all lit. It's not. There's no Photoshop to it or anything else. I don't use Photoshop to create an image. Never. I hate that. It's always been in camera, 99%, and then whatever little bit we can take color, contrast, and possibly maybe a little bit of exposure here and there, if I'm incorrect with it, but never brightness, color, contrast, the three things that I probably work on most, but never creating a photo. Well, sometimes you just shoot, give the images nowadays. But, okay, this is funny. We can hold on this for a second. Mochi is as Indian a brand as anybody can ever get. But the agency that does the creatives for them, the owner is a very dear friend of mine. And I was in New York at that time. He called me and he said, "Dude, what can you do for me?" And it's like, he said, I wouldn't be shooting for these kind of things. And he goes, "Dude, just do something." And I said, "Okay." And my producer was there next to me, and he said, "We'd shoot at Coney Island. Coney Island is one of the most difficult and most expensive places to shoot in the world, because everybody wants to shoot there in Coney. So we had to really do a huge Indian number, how to do Jugaad and do this and go to work. We literally covered no budget, and we landed up shooting. I think it was fun. Of course, shoes, they wanted to shoot the shoes, and every shoe has to be, when you work with a shoe brand, there's outer leg and there's inner leg and all that. So we had to get restricted to how I would love to compose. But within the framework, whatever we could do with color, with styling, with casting, with the right kind of hair and makeup, it's a small thing. So we landed up doing something like that. We can keep. This is a film again. We shot everything on film with the client out of Bombay. We shot at the Taj. Yeah. New York. Stand by. Keep moving. Casting in fashion plays a very, 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 very important. This was a while ago, and when Anita was just launching this is a label called Grassroot, and I wanted to shoot it again and I shot, believe it or not, I shot this whole campaign with just a small point and shoot camera. Everything was just shot with a small point and shoot camera. I didn't want to bring in the paraphernalia. I just wanted it to be a nice interaction between clothes, model, and me. I didn't want to complicate it. Of course, we needed a very good hairstylist, very good stylist, very good makeup artist. Deepa did the makeup actually, and it was great. But I think somehow the brand had some investor come on board, and the investor started deciding how the creative should be, and this. And I guess a lot of these things have started happening nowadays, right? So creativity, they've battered it completely out of the bloody field. There's so many other things than actually. So I don't know where she's headed now, and started getting so complicated with all these guys, and I'm like, listen, I can't. If you're really wanting me to shoot something commercially, I agree, it's a commercial job, and everybody's out there to sell, to make money. We agree to this completely, but you can't just dilute it so much. You've got to keep a certain level of a certain consistency in the language of your own brand. You can't keep dilly-dallying it, but they never listen to it. So I had to step out of it. But anyway, I think I liked what I shot then, and I think they still hold a little bit of weight as a commercial portfolio. Keep moving. Raymond. This is Tarun. He's a nice creative girl. She too. She's always fun to shoot with. She pushes around a bit. Very nice creative. Cotton World again, an old campaign with Kalki, who's a friend. It's always nice to shoot her. Because it's studio and fashion in studio, we have to sort of we have to see if it's in studio, then you don't have the luxury of locations where you can actually do multiple compositions. That if it's just a simple, straight celebrity with clothes, then the strongest ally is your stylist, where you actually really want to sit with him or her and design clothes and style it to make it the coolest possible. Even though sometimes the clothes are so commercial that you can't really do much with it, but you do what you can, the best in that. This is it. So that's a Burman which is dead 5 years ago. I don't shoot like this anymore. I show a portfolio which is completely different after.
Okay, should we see the rebirth? Should we see the new Burman first before we talk at length? So it'll be interesting for people to see both these one after the other.
Sure. Actually, I can show the PDF. Vinay, would you like me to do that? Can I do that?
Yeah, that'll be
great.
I
can show the PDF. Yeah, because then I can run through it. Because
yeah. So you have the share screen option.
Yeah. Okay, so we saw the Raj show the new. Well, it's not new again because all the newest work is not in there because of the time that we have. But regardless, this is. Can everybody see it?
Yes.
You just might want to make it a full screen.
Yeah, go to the first slide, make it a full screen, and you can see it.
There we go. Can everybody see this?
Yeah, yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So this is kind of a more recent. This is last year, yeah. So this is a Burman that I am embracing. I mean, this is where my photography has gone towards today, and I like it. I want to probably work on it a little more and keep changing the language. And I don't know many things, because the last big editorial that I shot with a French magazine, I kind of took the images, I cut them up, I made a collage out of them. So it was very different. But these are all transitions, I feel. But still, this is a voice that I'm really relating to at the moment. And this is what we share with our clients overseas. Maybe a few in India, but mostly abroad. Even though this is shot for Elle India, but it was Gucci who paid for everything. And I made a small booklet out of it, which I like. And now what I've started shooting mostly on everything on film, except a few commercial jobs, typical, and you have a lot of these big agencies and this and that, and all of these other guys coming on board. You have to work with a big creative team, and you can't really bounce around the idea of film too much, but maybe a little bit. It's kind of it's a nice zone. And what I start doing is I shoot my own film. I have a lab that I process. In India, it's SV. They do a great job in processing, even though sometimes they over process it a little bit because the water in Delhi is a little harder. So there's a trick to it. But so I process the film and then I take it to the dark room and I actually print. I do a C-type color print. I have a really good studio in Paris that I work in the south of Paris, which I don't have access to now, of course, because of lockdown. But I do my own C-type prints and then I scan them to get the right colors, the right tonal ranges that I want, and all. That's going back to the technique, which I don't think is very important at the moment. But it's just for a lot of the listeners who are coming. It's the best way if you're interested in shooting on film is find a lab, process, and then learn how to print. That's very important. And if you know how to manually print your photos, that will help when you take that will help the way you want to plan your shoot before. And also a lot of these new young photographers who I see, these young, I've got a couple of guys coming on assistant. They don't even know how to use a light meter. Nobody knows how to read a light meter. When I say that, okay, learn how to print, then you really know the importance of exposure. So again, technique I don't want to elaborate on so much, but it's just a small pointer to know. Regardless, so that's where it's become much more manual, much more slower, the process of me working. So when I'm exploring an image much more, and also when I'm shooting on film, I see my frame. I think about my frame a lot more rather than just blindly shooting. So that's changed the way of seeing things. It's changed the way of feeling things a lot more for me, and I love that space. So then I feel more as an artist than just a guy executing frames. This is all for the same story, and he is actually the boy is becoming a very famous model at the moment. Pratik, he's the poor guy from I forgot which part of Bombay he was from, and nobody's paying attention to him. But such a beautiful face. He's modeled for every major couture brand in the world today. He's done Lanvin, he's done Hugo Boss, he's done everything huge. So it's interesting to have him, and we obviously played with a very different format of styling. Wanted to explore and it's not something new in India, to be honest. Men with big necklaces has been around in our history forever. So a lot of things coming like that. Part of the same story. And, casting has changed so much today. Repetition of shapes. This is interesting. My wife's a creative director, and we shot for a Swedish magazine, and it's all about subcultures. It was only about the concept of punk that originated in Britain a long time ago. And then punk became a mainstream culture for a little while, and then it became a massive subculture in the UK, in the EU at the moment, in New York, in a big way. And a lot of the kids, there's a huge section of kids who are embracing it, and we wanted to play with that. So Lyons is a famous, quite a few famous faces in Paris. Hannah is one of the faces for Gucci at the moment worldwide. So I have another question. If I move the cursor, can you guys see the cursor as well?
Yeah, you should move it to the extreme corner ideally. Yeah, that'll be great.
Instagram, yeah, but just point out like Hannah as a model, for instance.
We see that.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right. Same story for Bonn, which is originally Swedish, as I pointed out. We played with a very, very cool hairstylist from Walter Schaefer, so she added a lot to this. L'Oficial Mexico, and one of the most amazing advantages of shooting in Paris or in New York is you have access to great clothes. This stuff is difficult to find in India, even though, and of course, there are beautiful models in India, but there's only, you have to keep exploring a lot. Here, the field is unlimited. One way of having some fun. And locations, and you start seeing your work a little bit differently, and also you're up against some amazing talent. The guy serving coffee in a coffee shop next to my studio is so good to put everybody to shame. It's so good. So you're up against some of the best in the world, and it's quite a challenge. But it also makes you push yourself a lot more. Makes you humble, which is great. This is another interesting, because we collaborated with this really famous artist. He made these crazy King Kong figures all over the world. His name was Richard Olvinsky. And we wanted to play, again, with repetition of form and repetition of color, I would say, or highlight, in this picture. And also make satire, it's just a funny story. So it was a story for a French magazine, but we kind of played with it. Turkey, and again, I didn't want to approach. We were shooting something with Turkish tourism and Elle, and I didn't want to approach. And Louis Vuitton was a part of it. I didn't want to approach it so seriously, and I wanted to take the whole fashion quotient out of it. I wanted, okay, let the girl be in these crazy clothes, but let it just be. I wanted to make it a little more unserious. So break the whole concept. I wanted to be completely. I wanted to have a lot of liberty in the way when I was shooting. Although I shot this whole thing with a Mamiya. Massive little guy. I love it, but it was fun to just be. This was a while ago with GQ in a very cool neighborhood in Paris, or in Pantin, which is in the east of Paris, which is it's like a very grungy sort of a space to be. In shape and form. This was a campaign for Isabelle Marant, which is it's a famous French. She's a couture, but also a really cool brand, like a menswear, women'swear. She started doing menswear recently. And there's a really interesting movie. I don't know if anybody's seen it. It's called Boy Uninterrupted. Have you seen it, Raj?
No, I haven't. No.
It's about the 1950s or 60s in America, where if you were gay, people thought that you had a disease and they could cure it. So then they started making these centers where if your kid was gay, the parents would send the kid to be cured, and it was terrible. So the whole campaign was an inspiration of that. It was a huge rage here because it was, you know, I mean, these issues are quite a strong political debate everywhere in the world, and it's you know, in terms of human rights, in terms of, so it was a campaign based on that. Chapati. It was an accident, but they ran it. Interesting. This is a guy making the candy maker in Chapati, but I love the colors, and it created such a beautiful. Again, I love installations. So I think there's a story with a very famous installation artist in Paris that's going to come up in the PDF. This is funny. Balenciaga is a famous brand, but all these couture brands are making street clothes now, and everybody pays a lot of money to look like homeless people, which is what fashion is headed in today's day and age, I guess. But we got paid, we shot it, we had fun. Part of it. It's kind of a bit taking the seriousness out of fashion again. I'm visiting it from a very sort of a plebeian perspective, you know, taking the poshness out of the fact and trying to approach it from a very street point of view, just putting clothes together, but keeping it, of course, thinking a lot about it, but trying to make it look less efforted. Chimamanda, this is the British Vogue story. I love my light leak situation, which I do with printing. Part of the Zaidi story. This is the whole sculpture scene in me, which I love playing with different forms. The concept was Eastern Asian tribal. So we shot it with Anavila, one of the Indian designers, but it's a campaign that I actually show everywhere. She let me be, and it was fun to play with her. But I love the installations that I made and created her clothes and textiles. So the idea was textile, and we played with that. He is actually he's Monica Bellucci's boyfriend, this guy. Really, really amazing installation, has amazing energy, Nicola. So we shot it for a magazine out of Barcelona called Dream, which is about sculptures and fine arts. And interesting to play because he's a surrealist. So we wanted to play with form and design and shape and break things away. Business of fashion. All film. And this is from for a French magazine called Teeth. Missoni, and I mean, I could talk and talk and talk. I don't know if you guys want to listen about it or something, but I just run through it. Maybe we can do a small Q&A session because it can go on for a long time. People will be bored to see that. But yeah, as I was saying, I've started to make my work much more art-driven rather than saying, okay, which client am I going to sell this to? So it's just become much more of a, okay, let's put shape, beauty, perspective, colors, things like that, and just start playing with that. That's it. This is actually another PDF that I would show, but this is a part of that. It's called Femasculine, which is about men who dress like women, and it's a book in process, which I'll come to later. And it's a part of the PDF that we share out to a lot of the clients in Paris or New York because they love this. It's a different, and this is a Burman, which is very, very close. It's very serious body of work which I'm building. I have a lot. I can't show all of it because my publishers will freak out, but just some of it. Still life and Irving Penn. If you're familiar with Irving Penn's work, he's a master. He's just incredible still life photographer. And I was, of course, exploring that within me, and we came up with a bunch of stuff, and I put them as a part of my work because I think it's just sort of nice to show a different side of yourself and what really. And I've always pointed to many people, I love creating small installations and sets, and I like in the miniature scale because I was a sculptor, so I want to still play with that. And then also you take inspiration from movies, from old movie posters in 1950s, 1960s. You know, I don't know if people are familiar with Molière. Molière was a really famous French playwright in the 1950s. And there was a movie that he did called Dans les Lunes, which is rockets coming into the moon, and a lot of the stuff is inspired by things like that. This was the one that you saw at that commercial video, and they put it in there. But this work is actually also quite old, but I still keep it because a lot of this stuff I still like shooting like this in a little bit. It's very, stripped down, bare basics, but great casting. That's where the production value is. Great casting, very good styling, and great location. Three things important. And then the rest is just, you've got to be very liberal and just start exploring the vibe that you want to be. This is from the Italian brand. This is again, it's just very basic approach, but I love the graphicness of the whole thing. So we were documenting saris, and there are over 20,000 ways of draping saris in India. Nobody knew that. So it was an interesting project that a few friends of mine were working on, and I was in New York at that time. And we dished out to Brooklyn. We shot it just about repetition of lines, basically, in this image, which I like. So I love the concept of form. Same thing with lines. We were working on this is Lakshmi actually, but I love the bands that happen. And that's it. This is a part of me which is there. I mean, there's a lot more which has happened, but this is still 2019. This is some stuff that we still send out, and it's a little bit more recent than the first PDF that I shared. So if more than welcome to ask questions, Raj, you can lead from here.
Yeah, should we just move to a few questions to the panelists, and there are questions from the participants, and we can show the other work if you want right after that. Swapan, you wanted to comment?
Burman, man. Burman. This is, you make me jealous, man. It is fabulous. I'm not kidding. I don't think I've given such a reaction in the last so many days. And to me, the space you're working in, I'm just listen, man. Just listen. Let me pour my heart out. I am so thrilled to see this work because for me, it's like, I don't even know if people realize that fashion is such a difficult place to be shooting because, great looking people, great styling, but here, when I'm seeing this work, what's brilliant is, there's you in every picture, especially the new Burman that we talk about.
Thank you.
No, seriously. So I know this space and I know how difficult. I would give an arm and a leg to be shooting like that. I want to shoot like this. It's damn difficult to get there because, the edginess, not just for the sake of it, because a lot of the images, they're just there. And we spoke about this in earlier, in other genres of photography, where, you define the brackets and then you go mad between those brackets. And I think you've done that.
Yeah.
You're doing that consistently. And you've blown me away. I'm really, really so happy to see these pictures. No, I'm so happy to see these pictures because it's something that I would love to be in that space, to just go crazy. And still there's such a sense of aesthetics, and still it's so languid, it's so fluid. And you're doing it at this age, man. It's I don't know where it's going to go. And I don't even know if a lot of people will get what you're doing. But I think it's fabulous. And if you stay grounded and you just do what you're doing, I think we're seeing a master who's already there, and it's the next few years, I don't know where you're going to go, man. And I'm dying to see these books because I saw one or two images there. And, I love this freeness. I love this fluidity and a great sense of style. And I think it's disguised beautifully, like great cinematography. You come back seeing it, and it's there, and it's not there, but it's beautiful. And the whole discussion about film, maybe I would like to come back to, because there I think let others talk, and then maybe we can come back to the whole film.
Yeah. Because your work is something that I've see. In fact, Prashant's work, your work is something that I've studied this a long time ago, and there's this element of freedom in there. It's not driven by paraphernalia. It's not driven by. There's that little element of. I don't know how to explain it exactly. Like words are not enough.
Don't use words when you're doing it in your pictures, and I think I want to get there now somehow. It's just fabulous. Yeah. Super.
It's like excellent work. I've seen frustrated in India and not happy with the kind of work you're doing, and suddenly you show this beautiful work. Really, really, you kind of made our day. It's fantastic.
Thank you, Prashad. This is coming from
damn difficult space that you're in, man, and you're cracking it. Super.
Thank you. I still don't know whether I've been able to do it, because it's so, and I'll show you the work that a lot of my contemporaries are doing in London, and in more London, I would say, because the work coming out of there is so insane. Like, there's a friend of mine, he's Hungarian, and this guy called Marton Pellaki. And if you see the work that he's doing, and it's so effortless, but there is so much depth to the work. There's so much study to the work, and it's incredible to spend time with him, because he's a surrealist. And I don't know how to, if anybody has some amount of time to research his work, his name is Marton, Marton Perlaki, Marton Pellaki. Incredible stuff. And the space that these guys are exploring is not it's not about, I don't know how to describe it. It's like taking a bird, but then they've studied like taxidermy, for instance, as a subject, and they've done such extensive work on taxidermy, but they've explored it with such a different vision. It's very difficult to explain that. People have to see the work. That's why. So when you see that work, and then you see, we're like, man, how do we break this, tear this apart, take this apart? It's quite from Preetika, Marton Pellaki.
Super.
Lovely. Any of the other panelists want to come in, because we have a couple of questions from the participants.
Entire generation, an entire era of your work, and then say, this is not what I want to be any longer. You put it out there, but yet you're coming around and saying, I don't want to be this any longer. That means you're negating a lot of people who you worked with and collaborated. It's very brave. Amazing. Really, really good.
Thank you. I don't mean any disrespect to anyone or anything else. It's just that.
No, you don't. Just the way you put it forward, you are dissing yourself. Nobody else involved. You did it for it was worth to you, and that's really very nice of you to do that. And the work that you showed after that, oh my God, really.
Thank you.
Really. I enjoyed it a lot. I've been enjoying it on social media, on your Instagram page and stuff, but seeing it in continuity, the way that you've shown it and as a part of a journey, really, really nice.
I've seen it for the first time. I had a brief look on the internet at about 11 o'clock, but now when I'm seeing the whole journey, so I'm also reacting like someone who's seeing it for the first time. I've seen some of the earlier work, but this is... Actually, and no one can fault you for being so honest. You're obviously not doing it because of arrogance. It's there because it's about the work and your love for it. And there's a case in point. No, it's not just about editorial work or photojournalism or documentary photography. Now, to me, this is as important, because even fashion is a part of the document of our life today. So in no way is it any less special than any of the other genres which are classically considered more serious. I think this is goddamn great work.
Yeah, in fact, surprise, the biggest fashion photographers today that I'm seeing in the world today are all actually fine art photographers. The biggest fashion photographers. Jamie Hawksworth is shooting. Is another guy who's Marton is actually one of the biggest. He shoots a lot of major brands, and he's a fine art photographer. Jamie is a fan of Harley Ware is another is this girl, it's this English girl, very young, and fine art photographer. And their whole approach to any assignment, commercial, non-commercial, their books and everything is classic fine art, and it's incredible.
It doesn't even have to be. The word fine art also is loosely used, because classically you see some of the great photojournalists became very great fashion photographers, like a William Klein. Was a great fashion photographer, right? And see his street work. He was a great street photographer, but his fashion work, and he broke the mold. I think, fine art, that's again one of those areas where we don't even need to use the word. When I'm looking at your work, it's just there. It's special, and it works on so many levels. I think we should give others a chance. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
Lovely. I think we have a question from Chandana, and then we will move to Raghav. Chandana? Vinay, can you switch on?
Chanya's on unmute. Yeah.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hi, Chandra.
Yeah.
Hi, Chandra. Yes. Hi.
Really inspired by your work.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to ask you, how does your aesthetics, when you're working with brands like Vogue and everything, how does your aesthetics affect, like, say if it gets clashed between the brand and yours, like, do you think you think of it as a compromise when you're working with them, like, you want to do it this way and they are nudging you to do it in another direction, or do you see it as an opportunity? Do you see it as an opportunity to do something new? Because it's, as a creative, it can be exciting.
See, there's always going to be a clash, right? Because you as a creative person have a certain voice, and then you're being commissioned by somebody else to shoot something which is their voice, right? It's two different things. Now, and this very rarely happens in today's day and age, where that person who's you is commissioning you because they like your voice and they want the two voices to interact with each other and create something magical in the middle, to have the two together combined. But having said that, all the time, what happens is, because that other person's commissioned you and the voice of the brand
is louder,
takes over in a big Now there are many psychological aspects to that. There's ego in the play. There's there also insecurity in the play, where they're like, oh my God, I'm paying so much money. Will I sell? So people think of the destination rather than the journey, again, as I was pointing out before. So apart from all of that, now you pointed out Vogue, for instance, right? Now Vogue is very different. Vogue is not a brand. Vogue is a magazine. And it was earlier, it was the job of magazines to create, to highlight or point out new aesthetics. It was the magazines to show the world that this is a new format of work, or this is a new light of thinking. Yeah, art driven, like a new thought process, a new concept. Nowadays, I think the magazines have also started compromising, because they have to start. Everything has become about money, which was never what it was before. When it all started out, it was never about money, and now everything is about money. So it's changed, and obviously approaches have changed. Now, having said that, when I'm interacting with brands, which is, say, a typical commercial job, is very different than shooting for a magazine. A lot of the times when I'm working, there are still a few magazines that let me do what I want to do, but I have a deal with them. I would probably not. There's a lot of magazines that I work for in the West where I don't charge them any money.
Okay.
But I say, but my in writing, there's a form that goes saying, but 125% creative liberty has to be mine. I would take a call on the layout. I would take a call on the image selection. I would take a call on, when I'm shooting, I don't want anybody on set. You put the clothes on, you send the girl, that's it. So you have to have that, and contract. So you create that. Yeah, you have to have that kind of relation with the magazine. It's very difficult to create, and I think it comes with time. You have to be, you have to. It comes with time. But with commercial work, when I'm being commissioned by an Ogilvy or one of those agencies to do a job, then it's, you've been commissioned to do a commercial job. It's a very different approach. You've been asked to shoot something for someone, and it's kind of your duty. So you approach it with a step. Of course, you have to bring in a lot of your own voice in that, in whatever way you can. But at the same time, it has to be a bit of compromise. It's like a husband-wife relationship, yin and yang. Yeah, you have to play like that.
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Red, I remember meeting you when you came out of your college, and first time at your place also with your mom and dad. Then many times in my studio, and so I remember you were very passionate about your work at that time, and at the same time you were having these troubles with magazines, and you were you're almost fighting with every magazine. I remember that. You tell me how pissed off you are and all that, and we used to discuss a lot about how to deal with these situations and how to put our voice across to them. But I want to ask you one very simpler thing actually, is that you've been saying that, that Burman died like 5 years ago. And I have a thought process that, like, if somebody will ask me, if you'll have to relive your life, will you do it again the same way? And I would say, yes, I would do the same way again. I would like to make the same mistake again, because that's what makes you what you are today, right? If you negate all those, all those mistakes, like if you have not burnt your fingers and not, if you have not hated some jobs and not loved some jobs and not fought with the editors of the magazines and the printing guy and all that, you wouldn't become what you are. So
I think everything is a part of it's just little things, all the masala that creates the main biryani.
Right? This is what makes you what you are, like, eventually all the fights and love and hate and all that, So I would say, in your future interviews, if you stop saying that Burman died, keep him alive. Keep him alive, man, because that's what makes you. Keep him alive.
No, I love it. I love it he's saying that. Tarun, I love it he's saying that, because it's like so like, yaar, khatam ho gaya, yaar.
Very theek hai, lekin I'm saying, the thing is, you can look at it both ways.
I don't think he's disrespecting that Burman. He's saying that Burman has died. Barabar hai, dafna diya, abhi ye Burman alag hai. I think it's super, yeah.
See, we all evolved from our work. We all start hating our work after 1 month or whatever, because that's how the drive is. That's the reason, when you're shooting, you're still trying to improve, trying to bring in a new language, actually, more than bringing a new language, you're trying to find out your own language. So how do you communicate that, it becomes your language? That's what I meant. I remember your frustration, sitting in my studio, you used to talk about editors and fights and all that. That was crazy, But fantastic work, fantastic.
It's funny that some of those editors have become really good friends, actually. It's 100%. Like, and it is, and I completely understand that. It's important I understand not to say that but it's become, I've become so detached from that work suddenly. Yeah. Like with a lot of with Bazaar and with L is still quite amazing in a way, because I think Malini and all of them are great people, and they love the idea of the work more than they love the work more than the everything else about the work. I think
so. They bring in the photographer according to the sensibility they so they respect individuals that way.
But a lot of the other guys it's become so difficult now to and I think I've become, I think, because I've been also doing a lot of yoga and meditation and all of that, and I think I've become a little more sensitive to energy in a way that I stopped working where I feel that it's not going to align anymore. And it just not. Then I just don't want to go into that conflict. I think when I was there, I was like,
of course, keep it up, fantastic work. Keep it up.
And the beauty is, what I think, when you see your work now, not many words are required, and it sounds like a cliche ke baat nahi karna chahiye, but really, because I think when you see your images, how do you explain what's so nice about that leaf going over the back, or that skirt kind of emulating the leaf at the back, or whatever, these small things. Once you start putting it into an equation, it becomes so frivolous. So I think what's the beauty, and I think because you're doing it in fashion, I think it's a language which we don't need to even equate it with literature. We never read a book and say, oh, I need photographs to read this book. Then why do we need it for photography? And I think yours is the kind of work where I think the aesthetics, the style, the way it comes together, and then that freeness within that is something where, it can be deciphered in many ways, and I think can be revisited. Right? I'm trying trying to sound so profound. So when you use the word fine art, then it kind of feels a little defensive. So I think that also is not required. I think it's just there, and it's just you, and it's still going to be you, and you'll continue. And I hope your voice, continues like this. And it's not. And really, I want people to know I don't really know Burman so well. This is like probably the first platform, but I'm just looking at a photographer whose work I'm reacting to you. And it's not even like, oh, we are like bosom buddies that we've known each other, so we have to praise each other's work. I'm just purely objectively looking at this, and I'm thrilled, and I'm really happy. This is the grand finale to part 1 of F.Stop, because it's a strong finale.
No, it's lovely because there's this quote that's attributed to a lot of musicians, that talking about music is like dancing about architecture. And that pretty much sums up what you were saying, that, of course, the irony is that we are saying this at a talk, but no, lovely work indeed. I just want to move to a couple of more questions, and I'll come back to the panelists after that. Raghav, and after that, Ambika. Vinay, is Raghav online?
Yeah, Raghav is. He's just coming on the camera now.
Sure.
Hey, Raghav.
Hi, I have a question for Rid. And when you were talking about, the work that you've left behind and the style that you've left behind, one of the things that struck me in this journey of yours is that there's a rejection of the artifice of digital photography in some ways. And yet, when you showed us your new work, which is the direction in which you want to move, there is a complete acceptance and a great enjoyment of the aesthetic and artifice or abstraction that film brings. Now, what I'd really, request you to reflect on is, why is it that this chemical or analog process feels more real or organic to you? And especially given the fact that it too is a huge abstraction on reality as we experience it. So what about this shift makes you feel more connected, a greater sense of reality, and creates that, for lack of a better word on my part, the connection of energy that you feel with your work now?
It's, with what's happened is with somehow with the moment I started experimenting a lot more on, I became slower, rather. So it was not about a medium per se as much as, because I don't really treat film and then do crazy effects to the film. A lot of photographers are doing that. When they take it to the dark room, there's a photographer called Leah Colombo. She takes it and then she burns her negative. There's a way called flashing the paper. There's tons of things. I don't do this. The way I used to shoot digitally, I shoot with my film. Same thing. Load the film, shoot. And it's just, I think what it's done is, you're not shooting 5,000 frames. So you're really sure and you're really working towards those 15 frames that you really want to do. So that has really changed a lot the moment I switched to the frame, to film. So I'm really, sometimes I'm sketching the shot that I want to do. Sometimes there's homework has become 20 times more important because they're shooting on film. Your recce has become 20 times important. This is a commercial job, but even for an editorial or personal work, even when I'm doing my personal work, I'm actually going to go out and actually study the space. Or if I have a thought in mind, it's not that I've just gone and shot it. I've actually spent an hour before I started taking the pictures to absorb it, because I just didn't want to go shoot. So film has brought those elements in me. Of course, it's interesting to play with the old cameras. I love cranking my Mamiya and playing with my Fuji format. And that's a different. It's about feel, really. I can't describe the whole thing. And it's not that I'm disconnected from digital completely. I think there's a photographer called Vivian Sasson, and she shoots. She's a Dutch photographer. She's done some amazing books. And Vivian Sasson shoots everything digitally, but unbelievable work. It's just how you react to the medium that you're photographing. But for me, film, what it's done is it's actually made me so conscious of what I'm shooting that it's almost like a meditation when I'm actually spending a bit of time with the camera to shoot what I shoot. So I'm not going to take a lot of frames. Maybe I'll take, on a Mamiya, you get 10 frames. Maybe I'll do 3 rolls, 30 frames. But I want to really think about those 30 frames. That's the thing. If that answers.
In fact, Vivian Sasson's In and Out of Fashion is a book that I highly
recommend. Great book. Yeah, it's a great
and in fact, when I was looking at some of your work, one of the artists that really came to my mind was Vivian, that particular book, because I went back to the book after you'd sent me the PDF. And there are some interesting connections that happen over there. Burman, there are a lot of questions that are about the practical side of how you plan an editorial shoot. So there are 3 or 4 people on YouTube who've really asked this. So one in terms of pitching, how you pitch a shoot to a magazine, especially the kind of shoot where you want all your freedom. And then the role of how you choose a stylist and casting, because you briefly mentioned it, but can you just elaborate on that in how you go about regular shoot?
The idea is it depends on the kind of magazines. Right now, there are magazines who are commercial and who are kind of go by a mandate, and they will send you a mood board, and a lot of the times the Vogue and Bazaar and Elle, they all work like that. They will send you, and not only in India, they throughout the globe they work like that because they are typical commercial magazines where they are endorsing certain brands that they want to sell, and there's a huge business behind it. And you don't want to blame them or anything else, saying, "Oh no, this is not true." Whatever. It's a way of life. They have to make a living. They have to sustain a massive force, and so there's nothing wrong with any of that. It's just that. So when you're working with somebody like that, and if they pitch a story to you, 90% of the time they will pitch a story to somebody like me. For instance, if they send a mood board, they will send a mood board which they know that, okay, maybe it'll work a little well with Burman's style of work. And so then you try, and so then you speak to the fashion editor who's going to style the clothes for you, and then you try and find the reason or the idea of the story, and then you elaborate on that, saying, okay, if this is the idea, what more can you do? You do a little more research on it. You definitely have to be involved in the casting process of the editorial. It's very important because you are shooting the models in the end of the day, and if you don't react or inspire by the face that you're photographing, then you're not, then the energy exchange is not there. So then that's a very important perspective. And clothes, what's happened with typical fashion magazine is the clothes have become so important with stylists. The clothes have become so important that they've pushed photography away and they've made the clothes the hero. But that's never the case. So as a photographer, I come in with a perspective saying clothes are important, but that's not your picture. Your picture is still your picture. So work for the picture. So and everything else to that. So maybe we go, and if they have a location, we go in. So this is for a commercial magazine. It's a different story. Now, when I'm working with fine art magazines, that is, that's a lot of the times they will just give you a concept. So say Pleasure Garden, which is a great fine art magazine out of London, and Pleasure Garden just say, okay, our concept is water. That's all. So they will say, okay, blue and water, or into the blue, which is their current concept now. And you sit. So now I'm very lucky. My wife's a creative director, so sometimes she comes up with the most amazing mood boards where she will put a lot of concepts together, a lot of things together. I do the same with her, and think about, okay, what can we do? What are the things associated with the word blue or water? And then you try and the moment you reference out, I mean, you don't shoot exactly on your reference, but you explore a lot of concepts, you explore a lot of thought process, you explore a lot of artists, and then you submit that to the magazine. And if they agree that, if they like that mood board, you go out and you shoot. Sometimes you have to create stuff, so you have to get producers, people, this and that on board. The good thing is that you have 100% creative liberty because it's your own concept, your own mood board that you're building on. The bad thing is they never pay you any money, so you have to really stock up on some commercials or
okay, lovely.
Dinner.
All right. I want to ask you a couple of other things, but so one thing obviously is how you spoke of the importance of the photograph itself, where you as a photographer come in and remind a lot of these brands or magazines or designers that the photograph itself has to be key. Now, the reason I'm asking you this is because you straddle both worlds. You straddle a world that's commercial, you straddle a world that's also contemporary. Some of the work that we are going to see now, I guess, is also in a very different zone. And a lot of contemporary photography is also going into a space where it's almost as if the importance of the single image is not what it used to be, or at least that's what say some trends around contemporary photography seem to be. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you want to react to that?
Just tell me the question again. I kind of lost.
A lot of contemporary photography seems to be going away from the importance given to the single image. And yet your work, or at least even your thought process, I believe, is something where the single image remains paramount rather than intent, or rather than, the kind of context that a work may be made in.
I think the thing is, what I feel sad is, when I mean, and I'm talking mostly about commercial, because this whole social media, it's kind of like a boon and a bane, right? Now, social media, people come in and just say they want like some 25 images of like, they want to shoot like 23 outfits. So it's kind of like shooting a catalog. But how do you, and no really particular voice or anything else. And the problem is everybody is doing that. Everybody. You open a brand today, you go to their Instagram page, there's 50 shots of 50 different outfits standing in front of a wall or something like that. So brand A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, everybody looks like each other. You take one brand and you take another brand, you take the logos out, you put everybody together, they look the same. That's where they need to talk about that single image. I think that single image about that one brand is going to talk about that one particular personality is very important, and not too many people are doing that. I think it's harder. It has to be, you have to really work on that. And I think we're losing this, which is why I want to. Now, of course, all of us are here we have to make a living. We have to survive, and we have to keep doing what we have to do. So, I mean, and I'm going to admit, I have shot 20 images in one day for some people, for many people, and we have to. But within those 20 images, I have actually always tried to push a language. I've not just blindly shot 20 images. I've always said, no, you've got to have, okay, I will shoot that image that you want, but then you shoot another perspective to that image, because that gives you that one single image, even if you have in the middle. Not too many people get it. Few clients, of course, understand that, and but majority, unfortunately, are heading to the direction, and this is across the world, which is why that single image is going to get really valuable later on. There's going to be so much clutter, so much information. You open Instagram today, you're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. There's images that look the same, but then suddenly you stop at something which is really special. That's what you're trying to aim.
Such a valid and important point you've raised. Sorry, Raj, I just thought it needs to be highlighted, because the way photography is practiced, and if a photographer is a photographer, then why should it be anything but about the image? And it's become more about being seen. But if you can be seen by your good work, that's what matters. And I think, like you said, I mean, amidst the clutter, that's what's going to have a longer shelf life. Or otherwise, it's just coming and going, left sweep, right sweep, or whatever the language of the internet is. It's crazy, and I think that's what your film journey is about also. I think I buy the point about slowing down, and that it gives you a discipline. What I don't buy is probably it's a romantic notion, because it's also being different in the current times. Because I feel prints are very, very important. Of course, that is what the language of photography, even for me, is. But I think we can achieve the same kind of prints even on digital, and they can look like C prints. But I think the process, I completely buy that it slows you down, and it really makes you think, and you respect the medium. Every time you crank the shutter, the feeling is just totally different, no? And I think that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty. That I completely buy.
Thank you. No, also, you can't shoot too much stuff, and that damn movie is so hard every time you crack the finger.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. And sometimes you don't need to. Sometimes you just don't need to. You just need to have that clarity and be alive. And that's beautiful. It's super.
This is a technical question here for a lot of people out there who would want to know, when you shoot medium format, it's the Mamiya 6x7. Is that the one?
Losing your voice.
We lost your voice. Can you repeat the question?
Sorry, this is for a lot of
Amit, I'm sorry we are losing your voice because of the
there
internet.
who want to
If you can message me your question, I'll ask the same. Burman, can we see some of your
He's
personal?
asking is if Mamiya is a 6x7 format.
So that's what he said.
6x7, or RZ 6x7. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Burman, do you want to show either dark matter or Unilever the more?
Is it the
yeah, I mean, all my panelists here who are sitting here today know this camera today. You know, it's a 6x7. Yeah, nothing new. Just I think, and it's more of a personal thing than anything else. So shooting with that camera.
Right.
Then I think I just feel like Lord Sopan said, it's more about that clarity.
What fun.
I'm losing it. So
Amit, I'm sorry, we're losing your connection again. Burman, just so there are still more questions from the audience and from the. I want to go to some of the other panelists as well. But before that, can we? Do you want to show either dark matter or Unilever?
You know, so what I'll do is I'll show I'll actually show a commercial job that I shot recently in December, which is and that's a space that I really enjoy, really, because they kind of let me do float in the direction that I wanted to go, and it's a fashion driven, it's a clothing brand, but at the same time I wanted to tap into like a bit of history, a bit of spiritualism, but not in a very literal way. And exploring that, like Nautanki, for instance, is a very famous culture amongst Indians. We've all, they used to call jatra, and then the concept of masculinity, right? I mean, androgyny has always been a part of India in a very big way. The world is embracing it now, but we've had this for a long time. So all these things kind of came into the mix of this campaign, which we did, and it's just a fun. And it's a space that I really enjoyed shooting. I would love to. Obviously, now if I shot that space all the time, I would probably not enjoy it as much anymore. But for me, that was new, and it was a fun sort of project to explore. I'll show that now.
Yep.
And then I'll.
Lisha.
There. So it was for, and it used to be a very, very Indian brand, and now they suddenly came out with this sort of ready-to-wear line and stuff that they wanted to sell in Paris, to be honest. So I luckily had that liberty where they were saying, no, this is not really for a typical India-based audience. We wanted to, so we introduced them to a bunch of stores here in Paris where they want to work with a place called Le Bon Marché and things like that. Anyways, this is a small little group of images that we shot for them, and it was. It was a nice experience for me. And we kind of played with this whole idea of beauty, but not beauty, right? I mean, beauty is again in the eyes of we wanted to sort of play with a very androgynous face, not typically like I showed these images to my dad and he was like, who are these women? What he completely didn't get it. But again, it was more of an inner exploration. Stuff to just kind of play. And one of them is a hairstylist, and one of them is a musician. And the entire world is really suddenly embracing India in a very interesting way. They're embracing India. They're embracing the imperfections of India. And I love that. So for me, exploring something there is just always so beautiful. And luckily, because I've been able to live away, and I kind of literally packed my bags and moved to Paris, and that's helping me see this in a very big way. It was a fun project with them where we sort of played, with the chaiwala and this and that, and took out the seriousness of clothes. Just playing with Nautanki. It's just a fun project. Girls on bikes, something like that. But yeah, there. So this is one typically commercial client who, well, this was not for their audience, but it was an experiment that they wanted to do, and it was a space that I had fun. I can't say that all the time, and of course, I think in a year you'll probably get to do a job like that once or twice. But it was something that I thought I'd like to share. And now coming to my personal. Yeah. Sorry. Questions?
No, I think first let's see the personal work so that then we can have questions that contextualize all of it. If
Dinesh wanted to come in.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah.
May I? Or should I wait? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interject right now.
No. Please.
No, the question I wanted to ask, and I hope I can phrase it properly, is that your discovery of Indian roots or Indianness is more of a personal journey, or did it come from the fact that since you'd gone abroad, that you needed to create a sense of differentiation with what you found there?
I mean, I would not be honest if I say that what you said in the end, that I wanted to create a certain language with certain difference, and I wanted to stand out of the crowd in Paris or in New York, and that's why I'm embracing more of my Indian roots than I did before. And I'll be completely honest, and that's definitely a part of it. And second, yes, of course, it's also a huge mix of a personal journey, because earlier when I was very young, and that was the time when I would visit Tarun's studio or when I went with Prashant and stuff, and I used to be so annoyed. But again, I was trying to have so many layers over me as a person, where I was, I didn't really know myself, what I really liked or what I didn't. And because of my education, which was mostly done overseas, it was a confusing time for me to come back to India and sorry? Somebody say something. I think I'm missing.
Sorry, your voice started breaking up. So if you could just repeat that part, Burman.
Because of my education overseas?
Yeah.
From where?
The last couple of sentences.
Yeah. So my education has been overseas. A good 60% of my education has been in London and a part of it in India. So it was a very confusing situation. Also, India was changing dramatically for my generation, right? Suddenly, you see, we were never like the guinea pig generation. We never had access to McDonald's. That came in. So these kind of things were always. So this whole transition, I think, confused me so much as a person till about 5 years ago, which is why I said that I kind of, because I identified till about 5-6 years ago, and it's funny to sound it, but I started discovering, more about spiritualism in India, which is the most incredible things that I've started doing to myself is learning yoga, and now I've been practicing really deeply, and that sort of associated with me with many amazing people who I started talking to, many teachers, Western and Indian, and that triggered off this incredible journey, which is where I started embracing what I truly am more and more and more, which is what I think that brought in this certain kind of change in the work as well. So if that answers your question, Misty, that's
I just wanted to understand what your journey through this was, because I think there's obviously a very dramatic shift, and any shift normally has to, one, do with a reason, and two, very importantly, a transition. It's not just a reason; it's also the entire journey and the transition, which takes you from one kind of person to being another kind.
Yeah, so it would be, and I'll be dishonest if I say that no, it wasn't that. I didn't want to highlight.
It's a perfectly valid reason. I mean, if you find yourself in a foreign country or a foreign culture, what do you fall back on? It's only very natural to fall back on who you are, and then when you find out, I don't know who I am, then you want to go and investigate who you are and where you're from.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me. Because when I moved out, and I was still lost, and I was like, okay, I don't want to be like the same guy in like the 20 other guys in my building in New York. I need to be, and how are you different from them? They're all Americans or whatever. One guy's from Texas, one guy's from, where am I from? India. What are my strengths? So you start, and then you discover, my goodness, the land that I'm from is golden, and then you start. You just keep.
Thank you. Yeah. Great answer. Thank you.
That's a lovely question, Dinesh. Before we move into the personal work, do any of the other panelists want to come in? Joseph, Nitin, Tarun? Or should we move to the personal work first? I think, Burman, let's see the personal work you want to show. Whichever you want to show, whether you want to show us both or one or whatever.
Okay, so there's
sorry, Devang, you might have to mute everybody.
Let's mute everyone.
Devang, just mute everyone, no, apart from Burman and me.
You're doing that. You're doing that. Okay, Burman, you're good to go. Yeah.
I'm good. Okay, so there's books are always these are always, it's a photographer's dream to be able to come out with many. You want to come out with many. It's difficult to, and if you are some, I mean, I'm kind of one of those people who's always working, having something ready to take to a publisher, and oh no, this is not good enough. Let's just do this whole thing again. So I've done that a few times. Anyway, so now luckily there's one where we've arrived, and there's really good touch with. There's a very good team out of London who are interested, and we're slowly going to work towards. It's called Dark Matter, which is what I'll show first. It's a very simple process. It's about, it's of course an homage to nature in a way, but it's also kind of and I've done that repeatedly in many of my personal series, because nature is something which is very, very close to me, and I hate the fact that it's heading towards such a disaster. And but Dark Matter is more about a relationship between Urbania and nature, and how sort of the two have come in together to create this interesting mixture of form, texture, shape, and abstraction, how nature takes over a couple of things, and how Urbania has crept into nature. So it's all sort of a interesting abstract synonymity between the two. I'll just show that now, and we can go. I can't show the whole thing because it's again, they said, okay, you can show this much, but not too much. So just an interesting exploration of things. It's just very, I don't know whether it's amateur or not mature. I've not really thought. I mean, again, of course, I've spent a lot of time in imagining the frames or reacting to the frames or thinking through the viewfinder for a multiple amount of times. But it's just an interesting, again, like nature and Urbania and a marriage of the two. A mixture of things. And it's very short. I again, like I said, I can't show too much of it. It's about a 50, 60 page book that we are going to be coming out hopefully. Now everything's delayed, but religion's also a part of it, because that sort of quintessentially defines how we interact with nature, and also how we interact with Urbania in a way. And Varanasi is going to be a huge separate chapter in the book. I love that space is something quite crazy. Yeah, it's a very short group out of Dark Matter. So yeah, that's a part of it. I'm open to questions or discussions.
Okay, Swapan, just 1 minute. Since we just have 15 minutes left, do you want to show the other work as well? And then we can, spend the rest of the time with questions from the panelists.
Sure. Okay, so I'll run through everything quickly. So then there's also Femasculine, which is about men and women and men who do not identify themselves as men and they dress as women, and that's a whole series itself that we are I'll run through that, and then in the end, I want to show something which is the book which is probably going to come out first. But this is again about men who dress up as women who don't identify themselves as men. So, and it's quite a conflicting situation with them. So I've spent time with them, and it's quite it's an interesting conflict, sort of a energy field to be in when you're with them. And these are stuff that they dress up in these things to feel like a woman. I mean, and the book gets very graphic in the end, which I don't know whether I could show it on Zoom and stuff. And anyway, if they wouldn't want me to, my publishers out of London. So
right.
I had to stop there because I actually was there in the middle of their room and spent the whole night with them. And it's quite crazy and very hard. And the next project is to go to Kuvagam, which is they have this crazy transgender festival there, and where all of them come and they behave like they get married, and then they behave like their husband's dead. So it's kind of this whole surreal surrounding, and that's the next project. But of course, now with this whole coronavirus and all that nonsense, I can't explore spaces that I would like. But that's the next big inspiration as a part of the chapter of this book, The Masculine. And the last one is Un Livre d'Amour. It's basically a book that my wife and I are working on, and it's our homage. It's kind of sort of a bridge of our relationship as we grow as husband and wife, our journey, and as we sort of have explored the last 4 years, we've traveled to many places on assignments or just us. And how nature has reacted our relationships, and of course, an homage to nature in general. So, if we send everything off to a book designer who's finishing off, and I'm just kind of playing with that. So, just a small snippet of the whole thing. Should I go slower, or this is okay?
I guess this is okay. Yeah.
It's okay?
Yeah.
All right. That's it. I can't show more anymore because they've really not allowed me to do any more than this. Fortunately, I can roll back again slowly. So it's about eroticism, of course, in a way we're lovers, and then mixture of things. That's it.
Thank you so much, Burman. Okay, somebody wanted to come in. Yes, Swapan.
If nobody else. Okay. Right through your journey, like I'm seeing is it because you're showing it to us on a screen, or the diptych seems to be a very big part of your life, whether you're doing fashion or whether now the books? Are we seeing opposite spreads of a book, or is diptych very much a part of your need to communicate? Because I saw it in the fashion, then even right through we're seeing it. So because each image is very powerful when we talk about the single image, but then still there's the reliance on diptychs and triptychs right through the work. So
it was a way when I was just doing the presentations to be able to show, because I think I just kind of put the 2 and 2 together and it looked really good. So in fact, the layout of the book is very different from the ones that I showed in the PDF.
Right.
Some I think I was quite close to the diptych. Yes, some because I needed 2 images to tell a story. Some are single, but it was not really. It's just the way I showed it on the screen. But yes, there are some times where I am quite closely connected to the diptych or a triptych. I think it'd be really beautiful to have, because when you're shooting and you discover maybe you shot something a year later, but then you suddenly realize, wow, the connection between that and this are these two elements that brought together and created something magical together. That's and those things are gifts, I consider. I think those are gifts. Yes. So those, definitely.
Thank you.
Just 1 second. There is. Just give me 1 second, guys. I'm a little lost.
Raj, the film question at any point of time.
There was a question, the film question. There was a question, in fact, by, was it Shruti? Again, talking about analog, but since we've spoken about it, is Shruti online? Is Shruti Garg online?
Yeah, she's unmuted.
Shruti, are you there? Can you ask your question? After that, we'll bring in Devansh, and then I'll go back to the panelists.
Shruti, can you hear us?
I can start my video.
That's okay. You can ask your question. We can hear you.
Hi, sir. Just want to ask about the analog thing because I just started using an analog camera, and I want to know what is the process of yours? Like, how do you decide which film to shoot with, and also, do you sketch out all your assignments before and pre-visualize it, or more work of yours is impulsive? Like on the like when you are at the destination or at the location there, you decide what kind of image you want to create.
Depends, Shruti. There's no okay. So first of all, and I want to point this out, which Swapan pointed out some time back. Analog for me is just a medium which I started exploring, and I started liking it because I felt more conscious when I was shooting. But having said that, if you have that ability to be able to do with any camera, even with your, even with your phone camera, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what medium you're shooting with, what film you're using, what camera you're using. It doesn't matter. All that matters is here and here, and here, what you feel. So that's very important. Second, I use film, which is it's very difficult to get a hold of and very expensive. So I use whatever sometimes I can get a hold of, but mostly I like, if just for the sake of it, I like shooting with a Kodak Portras. So I shoot a lot of color negative. Transparency film, which is diapositive film, is very difficult to find and process and extremely expensive. But I do shoot it once in a while, and I shoot it only in Paris or, in fact, actually, if somebody's looking to process film, one of the cheapest and very good processing is in Bangkok. There's an area called Chatuchak Market. And right next to it, there are many film labs, and they sell film, process film, and they do E6. Normally in India, we can't process E6 anymore, but in Bangkok, they can, and at a great price. The only thing is logistics is a huge problem. But if you're there for an assignment or something else, you just take it. That's what otherwise I have a lab here in Paris that I work with.
Okay.
That's if that answers your question. Now, and in terms of sketching out assignments, sometimes when I'm doing an editorial or a commercial job, which is given me a lot of creative liberty, I would sketch out. Yes. Sometimes the sketch is given to me by the creative director, who's commissioned me to shoot the job, and I sort of work on that. So it's a mix of both.
Okay. Thank you.
Burman, before I bring in Devansh, there is a question from a queer photographer who wants to be anonymous.
Okay, great.
Person's asking, as a presumably cisgender photographer, what was your thought process while approaching Femasculine? Also, you've mentioned that the subjects do not identify as men. And if that's the case, why do you keep referring to them that way? Isn't that essentially misgendering?
So that's the thing. You see, and it's something that I'm very scared of, because I come across as a person who's exoticizing this whole thing, and they don't, so this is not, I'm not talking about being gay. They actually don't identify as being gay either. So it's a very confusing, it's almost a space where it's by gender. So they're born in a man's body, but they don't feel like a man. So I don't know how else to put it together, you know. So it's a very, and it's such a painful space for them, because if you
please, are they trans individuals or?
No, they're not even trans individuals. You see, that's the thing. They just feel like different people born. They just feel like women born in men's bodies, almost, in a way. So they don't even feel. They don't feel. See, a lot of gay men are still men in a way. I mean, I don't want to offend. They're men, you know. And I have so many friends who are. So it's different, and these people are different. So it's a very, very, very different space altogether to play, and it's very difficult for me to, because I couldn't help them in the way I want to.
Okay, but since I presume you identify as cisgender person, what kind of a role do the people you photograph have in this work, in terms of do they have a say in terms of how they wish to be portrayed? Do they have a say in terms of which kind of photographs can eventually be used?
They sort of, well, not really. They never really interfered. They because I told them that, listen, I'm here and I want to be kind of invisible. I'm going to be around, and I was a friend of theirs in a way, and essentially just like photographing friends, you know, a bunch of my friends at home, and that's what it was. So just free.
Okay. Cool, because I believe this person's wanting to give you a feedback that you should have queer individuals who are working with you on the book when you're finally putting the work together, so that
I would definitely take that in mind. Yeah.
The complexity of the various identities can be better navigated.
Thank you.
Yeah. Can we move to Devansh? Devansh is waiting.
Hi, Reid. Great work. I had a question. I saw a very strong sense of wabi-sabi in a lot of your work. So my question was,
we're losing your voice a little bit, Devansh.
Can you hear me now?
Better, yeah.
Yeah. So there's just an observation that I saw a sense of wabi-sabi in a lot of your work. So I wanted to know whether you get attracted to the wabi-sabi in the first place when you see the frame, or does it come at a different stage, or probably in the post stage where you actually find that imperfection to be more attractive when you may be curating your work?
I've always been attracted to wabi-sabi. It's been a philosophy that I just adore. I love the Japanese because of that. You know, it's beauty in imperfections is something which it's something I always enjoyed. So if you've seen that in my work, thank you very much. It's very, 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 very grateful to you that you point that out. It's something that I as a person itself also, it's like, say for instance, if I'm buying something for my house, I would like to find something which is not perfect. You know, if there's a little something wrong with it, then actually that's what makes it special.
So would that mean when you see a frame which is perfectly lit or perfectly styled or with a perfect face, would you work to try and get some imperfection in, or would you be okay shooting it as it is?
Depends. You know, sometimes, when you're working on a commercial project or something like that, I guess this whole concept of wabi-sabi doesn't really apply into any place that it be. In my personal work, I would definitely search for wabi-sabi. That is important. So if I am to shoot a face or a composition or something like that, I would look for that little kind of imperfection. I would go out and search for it. Yes.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Devansh. Okay, so we want to largely wrap, but can I just go to the panelists once? And if anyone has something to say, Fauzan has a hand up.
Fauzan has a question, yeah.
Hi. Can you hear me, guys, now?
Yes.
I can.
Okay, now I've been listening to you about using film of late. Okay. And I believe that brings in more...
Or a question or to yaar chalu?
Huh?
Oh, that's Devansh.
Okay, go ahead, Fauzan, sir.
Sorry.
Am I not here too? It's Devansh.
Devansh, can you please mute yourself, or Devang just mute everyone apart from Fauzan and Reid?
We've done that. We've done that.
Thank you.
He's done it.
Rid, I was saying you using film of late because that brings in more, I would say, discipline in your shooting. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, when you shoot with film, you process the film and then you digitalize them. Correct? You scan it.
No, he's making a print. He's making a print and scanning the print.
Are you making a print directly from the negatives?
No. So sometimes when I'm shooting, once I shot the film, I'll make a proof sheet. I'll make my contact sheets, and then I'll select whatever we select. But sometimes when I have to send out, say for a magazine or for a commercial client. So now we shot in Bombay for a magazine in New York. I shot everything on film, but I sent them out digital scans to the guy to see. You pick the one that you want to pick. To do a layout or whatever it is, and we discuss and all of that. And once once we have an idea, but I've also done proof sheets for the real colors, because when you're digitizing the negatives, it's never the colors are not the actual colors in the negatives. It's completely.
Okay.
Completely.
The point I'm
but just
trying to come
see
to
the photo.
The point I'm trying to come to is you still are you're still scanning your negative or slide, whatever. Correct? You're still
I'm
using.
Still scanning it once, just to sort of share what we have in terms of the idea, like expressions, mood, or whatever it is. Never really.
And if a particular print or if a particular image has been selected by a magazine, by anybody who wants it, then you will still scan and send the image to them. Correct?
No.
He said he'll print it.
Then I'll do Then I'll print it, and,
okay. Now,
and then I'll do
when you printed directly from the source, correct?
I print from the negative. Yeah.
Directly from the negative.
Yeah. In a lab which is in the South Paris. Yeah. So we.
Okay. So there's no digitalization involved in making a final print.
No. So once you have the C-type print, then the print, but we don't do anything to the scan. It's just a simple scan of the digital print of the C-type print. Sorry, and then we send that file out by WeTransfer. But the main printing is always a C-type print. The image is always a C-type print that goes out.
Lovely. Thank you, Farzan. Do any of the panelists want to come in, because I want to otherwise wrap?
Raj, please.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, even continuing this film thing, because for us it's of course bringing back so many things which were physical about the medium, and it was just fabulous. But again, coming to the point, and Rai Saab just a few days back touched, he didn't say it on this platform, but you tell him, Rai Saab, you're such a great printer, and you've always printed. Would you go back to film? And he said, if you want to punish someone, you give them film. So he uses that as a punishment for someone who's not doing good work. But having said that, the process that you said, that it slows you down, and again, I'm repeating myself, that is a beautiful take from that.
Yeah.
And I feel that, as a tutorial, if we may have this discussion in the tutorial, because I think a lot of people listening to this and who are probably, 5, 6, 7 years into photography just need to know this. And if we could just take the liberty of this discussion to be, I think, a great learning experience, that slowing down process can even be done with digital, with a digital camera. And I think you said that, if you want, put your LCD off at the back, start using a meter, and you'll slow down, and the process stays the same, right? It's just that it's so tempting that when you know that, hey, I can peek and I can see something and I can come back to it. That temptation is what I think sometimes make people shoot so much. And I think the discipline aspect, it's like going to the gym. People may talk and talk and talk about how to build muscles, but till you go and do those sets of weights, you're never going to build muscles. And I think I think it's so much what you said. There's so much to learn from that. Film, I think, as a discipline, great, but you can still use digital to make a C-type looking print even today. Maybe you do it on the inkjet printer, and you can still get there. So the process, I think, is where the learning is, I think. And what do you have to say?
I mean, for me, amongst all my panelists, they've all shot on film, right? All of you guys have shot on film. All of you guys have. So you already are, when you're thinking, you're already thinking so much in the frame. So it's already there. For me, I started learning on film and then I switched to digital, and then I was shooting so much stuff and not really, so for me, actually going back to film, right? So, and it's more of an individual case rather than a generalized situation. So for photographers who've actually already, who's already been through that and they already have that practice, it doesn't matter. Digital film, it doesn't matter. Even a phone camera, or it doesn't matter. But for me individually, I think that helped a little bit because we just started shooting on film and then everything shifted to digital, right? When I was just starting out, and this was I started shooting, stopped assisting around 2005, and I started shooting properly around 2007, 2008. And by that time everything was digital and the whole industry has shifted, and so I was never really, which is why I think I was starting to get frustrated, because I was that whole guinea pig of process, which was never. And then for somebody like Swap on yourself or Tarun, or they've already shot so much experience, so much vision. So when you're looking through the camera, you already have that practice of understanding and seeing a frame and decoding it. You already see it. For me, it was still. So I think that I started finding much more when I was shooting stuff. So that, for me personally, that helped a little.
But listening to you, today I want to go back to my dark room. This inspiring me to say, and Raj keeps telling me, and I've kept my dark room just the way it is. I'm not printed in a white.
You gotta
Yeah, but my black and white, not the
fun.
color. I just feel, listening to this, it's something so special that we had as a part of our learning experience, and we just gave it up. And I don't know, I really feel that I'm being very, very close to being inspired to actually think about maybe I should
just
bad.
I'll get the chemicals if I'm allowed to. I think I don't know if India will let me.
I have some expired chemicals in my fridge. Hopefully they work. But yeah, it's fabulous, man.
Yeah. It's the funny part is it's difficult to get this C-type, the color printing in India.
Yeah. No, then you just go to these 1 hour labs. They do a pretty good job in giving you fairly decent C prints if you sit with them.
Where?
Just these 1 hour quick labs that are printing all this wedding stuff. You just get one guy there and you give it on the machine. You get your C41 processed and you give them. They do a lot of my work prints for my earlier work also used to be done in those labs. And I think that's a possibility. You can get cheap prints, which are great work prints. And then if you have something special, you can always print it.
Speaking of this, I don't know if I have time. I mean, this is interesting because, I did so much mistakes when I was printing in the beginning. And all these errors where I flashed the paper, where the paper's gone, and then I started experimenting with photo painting, right? So we took these torches and you put color gels on it, and then you take the C-type and you put these color gels on the torches. You put magenta and the light, and then when you fed it through the processor, it came out cyan, the colors and all that. So I did a whole collage with all these negated papers. And a shoot that I did. I don't know if I have time to show it. I'll just quickly run you guys through it. So, do we have time, Raj, or is it over? We're already over.
Devang, do you think we have 3-4 minutes more?
I think what we'll do is we'll do a breakout session after this, as it is.
Really? And I thought I would.
We say we can. You can go on for 3-4 minutes. I think 2-3 minutes.
I can.
Be a good wait.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just showing it. I'm just showing it for.
We always have time for pictures, boss.
For because it was just about printing. So it was just a fun.
I've never printed color, but but lovely to see.
So it basically, all the background things. It's just a digital manual collage where I actually took out a lot of the fashion stuff that we shot and I cut them out because I was bored of shooting fashion. How do you play it? So and the whole concept was obviously apocalyptic and this and that and story inspired by that. And so and all the colors that you see at the background, like you can see it has the Kodak Professional photographic paper. So all the mistakes that are done in the darkroom. So a lot of the background was made by that, and it was kind of a fun story to play. They ran it, got a good response in Paris. It was an interesting experience. Of course, they put it. This is a diptych layout the way we wanted to sort of put this thing together. This is a single image, but it's a fun story. And this whole thing is like a massive piece of photographic paper that we just exposed to blue light by mistake, and I was like, no, we're gonna feed it through the feeder, through the processor, right? Check out. Yeah, that's it.
It's fun, yeah.
Lovely.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you so much, Burman.
Awesome.
Thank you, all of you. Burman, your work is fantastic, and thank you for this.
Considering the company that I'm in, I'm very grateful.
No, thank you for this insight into the process, into the craft of your commercial work. I wish we'd got a little more time probably to discuss the complexity of your personal work and all the things around it, but maybe that's for another session. Maybe F.Stop should do a darkroom workshop, color processing with you and black and white with Swap.
Oh God. Refresher course, please.
Anyway, but no, seriously, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's tuned in. Thank you to all the participants.
Thank you very much, everybody. Very grateful.
Thank you, Ashit. You guys have done a fantastic job. Thank you.
Thank you, Tarun. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Red. Superb, superb.
Devang, over to you.
Thank you, Red. That was an amazing session. And I'm sure Raj has already mentioned it, that yes, we will do a darkroom session once. We'll probably get you once again because we are in another lockdown for another 20 days. So we're figuring out what to do anyways. But thank you so much for sharing your work, your commercial work, the journey that you've had, the part of which you say has already died. It's amazing. It's kind of a takeaway that yes, you can die and reborn without actually being cremated. So that's great. And
well, we still have to do commercial work.
Absolutely. Raj, thank you for your moderation. Superb as always. I just want to give it back to not give it back, but I would like to give it to Ashit, and I want Ashit to just kind of say a few words, and then Vinay, and then I have some closing notes and learnings. So Ashit, please.
Thank you, guys. It was wonderful. These last 19 sessions have been fantastic, and look forward for more. And all the panelists, especially for every day tuning and entertaining us and making us learn something new. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashit.
So good to hear, Ashit, man.
Yeah. Thank you, Ashit, for finally speaking up. Like, he's been the man behind of doing so much hard work and a lot of creatives and the entire Instagram and the social media. He's been the man behind it. So a lot of hard work to Ashit. Thank you so much for being there, and thank you so much to all of you. It started like a very small idea that we had. Okay, what will we do for 21 days? And today, actually, it was today that I counted while typing the list that we actually finished 19 sessions in 21 days.
Wow.
So that's amazing.
Wow.
I'm happy nobody realized how it went. And hi Burman sir, thank you for coming on.
Why is Burman as Anurag Dasi? Or is it just me?
He signed in from the wrong link. Yeah.
I have come in the wrong link. I'm so sorry.
So thank you so much, guys. It's been such an amazing journey, and it's sadly we come to a pause, as I would say, because of some reasons we have to pause this session here for a few.
It's called wives.
Yeah, and we'll be coming back very soon as our Modi announces when to start. So thank you so much. Thank you from my.
अरे विनय थोड़े आंसू please. Burman sir सिखाओ ना इसको रोना कैमरा पे.
Quick thing. Sorry. A lot of my friends I'm also working with them a little bit. It's called the Cora India Foundation. So whoever for the participants who are there, I should have mentioned it before. If you can go onto it, it's just coraindia.com. And Masoom Foundation. It's actually to raise a little bit of money for the people who are not being able to work or find a way home or things in India. As we know, it's quite a challenging time for everyone. So if everybody can just visit them and just take a quick peek at them, and then whatever, even 5 rupees.
Thank you, Red. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm just quickly gonna try and sum up this series, but definitely, as Vinay rightly said, this is just a pause we are taking. It's just a pause from what we have been doing for the last 19 days, and a big thank you goes out to everyone who's here on this image, and it's been such an honor, such a pleasure. Let me just, while you all look at this image, let me just run you through some of these statistics, that have come out. So Vinay already said we had 19 sessions. We had on our Facebook page, we have had a post reach of about 14,000 and 3,300 page views. On Instagram, we went from 0. So when the series started, we were at 0 because we never had our Insta account or handle. We went from 0 to 3,075. We have had over 135,000 impressions on Instagram. On YouTube, we went from 0 to about 1,550 with about 25,000 views on the videos, and an average total watch time right now is showing as around 5,800 hours of video watch time. We have had viewership from 17 countries, and we thought we were just doing it here in India for a bunch of our friends and past participants, and but we had viewers from 17 different countries. And the best part of this entire series, if I may, we have had the highest viewership. 70% of our, pardon me, 70% of our viewers are in the age group 18 to 34. So imagine the kind of impact all these sessions and all of you have had on the 70% audience. It's probably gonna be giving them so much of direction and so much of motivation in their lives. A few learnings which I just thought I will share, and these are some things that I have taken out as the notes from each and every session and all the sessions that have been going on. A photograph is the truth. There is no shortcut to success, even in an art or a medium like photography, which is so instantaneous these days. The age-old relationship of a guru and a disciple still holds true. And we have had phenomenal examples of that in the series. It just takes one hand to push you on the path to your destiny. A hand like Fazan. You have to go all in if you want to climb to the summit. For those who play poker, they would understand all in. It's like you go in with all your chips. Your equipment doesn't matter as much as your finger. So we've been avoiding all the equipment related questions in the entire series. Film is not dead. Not today for sure. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and a picture is in the mind of the photographer. There is no mundane. It's just the perspective you have. Don't be afraid to trash, reboot, and restart. Something that we heard from Mr. Mehra. There is no start or end to a project unless you want it to. One of Swapan's personal project is 21 years old today. Research, read, study about the genre and the subject. The camera won't teach you. Selling your business or quitting your job or losing your income is a great motivator and surely brings a lot of clarity. It did to a number of our panelists and speakers. Rewards will come, it just takes a bit of time. Sincerity, honesty, dedication, passion, and a bit of luck. That's all that is needed. If you are an engineer, your chances of success are better, although other disciplines may work too. Listen to your mind and follow your heart. They will always be there with you. There is nothing like the right time, the right place. You simply have to go out there every single day. Be prepared, keep your camera ready. If you want it, work for it. It's that simple. The final one is there are no accidents. So thank you guys. Thank you for this wonderful, wonderful series, these wonderful 19 sessions we have had. So much of love, so much of inspiration, so much of motivation, so much of sharing, bonding has happened. And it just goes out to as a big thank you to all of you. Thank you for being there. Thank you for giving us whatever we asked for from each one of you. Thank you once again, Rid, for your session today.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you.
Lovely to see you again soon. This is just end of series 1, part 1, whatever you call it. I just want to play a small video just to end this.
Actually, for us, lockdown starts from tomorrow. कल से लगने वाली है बेटा.
Thank you, and all the participants. Thank you so much for being here all the days. And it's time to leave this meeting for now. So thank you for your participation, and kindly sign off. Kindly log off. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
So much. Thank you.
Panelists, yeah, the panelists can stay back.